Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 5 of the Into the Paranormal podcast. Join me, your host, Kevin Leonard. With me, as always, is Corey Beam. Join us as we delve deep into the strange, the dark, the macabre, and sometimes weird. We dive into the paranormal. And as always, today's episode is brought to you by the Coastal Atlantic Paranormal Association. So, Corey, this time, you tell us a little bit about Kappa.
Absolutely. The Coastal Atlantic Paranormal Association is a very well-rounded paranormal team here for all your paranormal needs. Here to help investigate hauntings, whether business, personal residence, or if you know of a place in your area that may need help getting to the bottom of a possible paranormal problem. We cover most of the Southeast, but we'll take the time to talk to someone from anywhere, because sometimes it is just a conversation that needs to happen. So reach out to us. You can go kappaparanormal.com or Facebook /Kappa Paranormal.
All right. So, how you been, Corey? It's been a week.
It's been a week. It's another week. We're here. We're alive. And I mean, since we've been off air, aliens exist, so that's something. That happened. So I think that's the first thing we need to talk about. Dave, I actually have some information here. So if I'm looking crazy off screen, because I got this paperwork, just wanted to get his name right. But I guess David Gorsh, a former major in the Air Force and worked with the intelligence of the Air Force, kind of whistle blew on a very top secret program that recovered crafts. And as stated, didn't only recover crafts, but recovered biologics that were quote unquote non-human. And that was a direct quote when he was being asked by Nancy Mace, who is a representative in Congress from South Carolina. So non-human biologics. You can draw conclusions as
Yeah. We're not saying they're aliens,
but we're saying
they're aliens.
Yeah, right. Like I don't know what else a non-human biologic would be.
Right.
I mean, I guess that could technically be a lizard, but I don't think we're having a congressional meeting for lizards.
Well, lizard people,
or lizard people, like the lady on the plane.
Yeah. So it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Going full circle.
We have a big old circle happening.
I think this is just the beginning of a lot of happenings that are soon to come. They're declassifying so much stuff. So many people of high ups, in the high ranking are coming forward and basically telling everyone like, hey, this is happening, basically right under your noses. So I think it won't be long before they're not going to be able to hide anything or hide that. They'll always have stuff to hide, but they're going to be basically in this short future. They're going to have to say, yeah, aliens are real. They've been here since such and such, and who knows what's going to happen then,
Yeah. I mean, as I've seen all over the internet this week, okay, cool, aliens are real, but I can't pay my rent.
Yeah.
I don't like. I don't know if people. It'll be different from other ship lands and on the grounds of the Capitol.
I think realistically is we knew,
Sure,
like deep inside, people know, and
absolutely.
Almost it's like they wait until the populace is desensitized to where they're like, okay, this isn't going to be as effective or make that much of an impact. if it happened back in like the 50s when there was like a UFO craze going
Right.
on.
I mean,
Or who knows, it could just blow up and, you know,
yeah.
people start looting and going crazy.
A lot of things could happen. I
Buying all the
think
toilet paper.
let's not go through that again. When you got bubble guts and need toilet paper, the worst thing that's the worst kind of thing that can happen. Um, I said that.
I don't
But
know either.
it's but let's not. If aliens exist, toilet paper is not going to help you. Let's just get that. It's also not going to help you if COVID's flying around. I don't. A
Yeah, that's
toilet
the
paper.
thing that's coming back too.
Ugh, I know. I've seen. Here we go. But right. So
But I can't
it's
believe that it's not talked about as much as it is. You know,
right.
it's
Right. Well, it's crazy because we've heard things from the past, right? Oh, I
Mhm.
can't remember. There was a guy that said he worked at Area 51 and he saw people
Mhm.
reverse engineering things. But they could never say he actually worked there or existed in that capacity. This guy did. We know he did. He was a major
Yeah,
in the Air Force. He worked with intelligence. Um,
yeah, and
so
and and to think, just what was it, 15 years before, or like 15 years earlier, most of those whistleblowers, uh, they had to hide their identity. Every time you saw them on video, it was like they were in a shadow and their
mhm,
voice was changed. So it's kind of like,
right,
okay, this person could be who they say they are. It could be Joe Blow down the road,
right.
just claiming.
I,
But
I mean,
now they
really,
have an entire Congress hearing about it.
right. That blows my mind. And not only do they have this whole hearing in front of Congress talking about this, we aren't talking about it. Like,
Right. And
like
to
we're
me,
making funny memes about it.
right. And to me, not to discredit any whistleblowers or anyone that had any information before, because they could have been 100% legit, but it brings a new uh validation when you can actually see and watch a hearing in front of Congress, and on the bottom of the screen is like hearing of UAPs. It's
Yeah,
that's not a thing that happens every day. Usually they're talking about something political or
yeah.
some other nonsense, political, not
Well,
nonsense, but you know what I mean. It's
right.
the same thing over and over
It,
again. But when you see the headline on it, their main topic is UFOs and aliens.
and just in
That's
case, I'm pretty sure most people, if you're watching this, you're probably read up on the subjects now. But um, UAP is the new term for UFO. I'm guessing UFO sounds too crazy. That
yeah, I
was
guess.
it got probably the stigma. Oh, UFOs. Woo, the so now we got the unidentified aerial phenomenon, which unidentified flying object, same damn thing. But
Yeah, pretty much. It
you
covers
know,
anything unknown and flying.
yeah. I mean, I, but um, I mean, yeah. It's crazy to think about.
Hmm. Yeah. So happy Saturday, everyone who wants to hear some more ghost stories.
Hopefully, people do because I got some more. I wanted to keep going. Um,
Oh, about the UAP or last?
oh, I'm talking about no
Yeah,
last,
about
yeah.
the yeah. We could
Um,
have talked for hours and hours.
I mean, we
That
got
was
so
our
many. I
longest
had
episode.
we had to cut it short, so we had to talk some more. I know we hadn't even talked about anything that happened at Gilcrest, and we had a lot of great experiences at the Gilcrest
Yeah,
jail, um,
yeah,
which is cool. I don't know if you saw Henry Lee, who owns the jail. They're getting plumbing in the jail,
yeah. I saw that.
back in the jail, which I thought was really cool. You know, I love that Henry Lee is taking really good care of that place.
Yeah.
You know,
It
that's
sure beats having to walk all the way down to the train depot like we did.
yeah, that's a heck of a walk, especially um, I'm not going to say Trenton is a beautiful place, just
Yeah.
like the city of Jasper, Florida, and it's not Edenton.
That looked freaky.
Did you see that? I disappeared for a second. I moved a little too fast for this. I'm like
Uh,
disappear. Oh,
all
oh no.
right. Jump scare for our YouTube viewers there.
The Men in Black,
Um,
they heard us talking about the UAP'S and they're trying to get rid of me.
yeah. All right.
But yeah, I definitely have some great stories from
So
Gilchrist.
why don't you go ahead and start
Yeah,
with Gilchrist?
sure. So um I remember now Kappa is like the new Futurama, right? It's been rebooted a few times on different networks. So in 2017, after some hiatus, we were able to get back together with some former investigators as well. Um, and, we were able to investigate for the first time the Gilchrist or the old Gilchrist County Jail in Trenton, Florida. Um, I think it's been closed since like the 60s, mid 60s.
60s. Yep.
Yeah. And, it's not in the best area. It's kind of in the middle of these.
It's a questionable area.
It was,
Basically.
and we had a lovely person. Her name was Michelle, who was with us that well the second time I wasn't there, but the first she was there both times, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she was a wonderful host and showing us around. But she would talk about how, yeah, don't worry, the people in this neighborhood think we're all crazy because we're at this old haunted jail.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. I remember now this is like most jails of the time period, just like the jail we were talking about last time in Edenton, like just like the jail that we have investigated, the old Hamilton County Jail. It has a residential part and a jail part, like many smaller rural jails did at this time. The keeper quarters, or no, there's not a jail keeper, but you get my drift, I think.
The jailer's house.
That thing, that's what it's called, not the keeper's quarters. That's a lighthouse. See, well, that I remember being in what was a bedroom.
Mm.
And I think all four of us were in there. It was almost still daylight. I believe in my memory it was daylight. We haven't really investigated much, but we were just kind of getting a feel for the building. And the other two investigators left. They had a funny, strange feeling they didn't like it. And I remember it was me and you in that room. And we were just hanging out, having a, just getting, feel. And I remember looking at you and we're just kind of staring at each other. And the feeling of the room got bad. I don't know if it was just me personally that started to feel odd. I don't know if it was just because they had also, they left and I was, just getting off from what they were feeling. But it changed. And I remember we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, we're going to leave. We're going to get out of this room. So we walked out into what is the main area of the living quarters, and the area to the jail, it was open, the door, and it sounded like there were 5 elephants playing hopscotch in the jail. I mean, these footsteps were so loud. I thought someone was going to come running through the door. We had thought the two other investigators were running around the jail doing something. We weren't because it was a ruckus, and everyone, including Michelle, who was our the person that was with us, all were outside. There was no one in that jail.
Right.
I mean, and I still distinctly remember just being flabbergasted by how loud it was, how loud and clear this noise was. And thinking, I mean, I don't know how to explain that. I mean, maybe there's an explanation, but I sure didn't have one. It was a neat experience.
Yeah.
Do you have anything from? I have a few more, but I know I would.
I remember at the same jail, it was you, myself, and Michelle. We were coming downstairs, and uh, Kyle and Callie, the other two investigators, they were outside at the picnic area because they had a picnic like rest area right across from the parking lot. It's a very small parking lot from the jail. Go out the courtyard, which is also very small, and then like a small little dirt road led up to it. That would be the parking lot, and then right across from that was the picnic area. It had like two picnic benches or something. But the three of us, you, Michelle, myself, were upstairs, and we were investigating, asking questions, yada yada yada. And we were coming back down, and I can't remember if we were hearing like whistling or something. And we got to the base of the stairs, and one of us like shushed, like shh, like you hear that? And we heard footsteps coming up to the front door. The front door was, open, and we could see if we were to go around the corner, we would basically see the hallway that led to the front door. But we were still on the stairwell, and we could see the light coming from the street light through the front door, shining into the gathering area of the jail. So we all like turned and looked at the area that the light was coming in through, and like basically the light that was shining on the wall to wait to see if we saw Kyle or Callie's shadows coming from outside. And we could hear footsteps on the grass, the dirt, the steps coming up to the jail. And then just before it sounded like they would walk into the jail, it just got stone silent. Completely quiet, no more footsteps. And we all just looked at each other and then looked around. No one was standing at the doorway. Then we actually went out there, and Kyle and Callie were still at the picnic table, just talking, taking a break. And, that was pretty creepy because of the area that it was in as well. Like I said,
Right. Yeah, well, that
we were like,
definitely
oh.
tied into that. I remember coming down the stairs, we were at the bottom of those stairs. And I remember hearing before that happened, we heard, well, me and Michelle, you didn't hear it. We heard a sigh, and I looked at Michelle. I think, no, me and Michelle looked over to you. We're like, was that you? And you looked at us like, what? I was like, well, we heard a sigh, and it was very loud. And
Maybe that's what it was. And I thought it
that
was like
might
a
have
fluke
been
or
what led
something.
into it. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I don't know if this was after, if this was before that happened, but I remember me, you, and Michelle were looking at the same direction, and we saw like a dark mass kind of form.
Mm.
Nothing ever too crazy formed. It was just a darker area within the darkness. But we did end up going outside to see where Kyle and Callie were, and at that time we checked the recorder for the sigh, and that was clear. That was there. We had gotten that. And that was. It's always nice when you hear something like that and then catch it.
Yeah.
To back it up, just to know you're not crazy.
Yeah.
But for a small, I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself once in a while, and because my shoulders disappeared, and I was just a floating head for a minute. I'm not getting distracted, but that was kind of funny. If you're on Spotify, you should definitely check out youtube.com and search into the paranormal so you can see me disappearing and reappearing. And then you got this big creepy face behind me, so that pops out. There I am.
This is because Corey doesn't use a light source.
Well, that's the problem right now, right? You can see you can see the computer screen in my background. Well, I had the light on, and now I'm disappearing. It's fun. We're just setting the mood, telling creepy stories in the dark. But I need better lighting for sure. Hopefully a new laptop too. We'll see what Santa Claus brings. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm Santa Claus to me. Sorry, that was way off topic.
Yeah, we went kind of.
You're here to talk about the paranormal, not my Amazon wish list.
Your Christmas, let's say your Christmas wish list. A flashlight.
Yeah.
A lamp.
I have, options here, but no, the Gilchrist was a fun place.
I remember the second time we went to Gilchrist, and you weren't with us on that particular investigation, and we heard a lot of whistles. That was the main thing that we were getting at the Gilchrist the second go around. It was a lot of whistles. We would be downstairs and we could just hear someone whistling upstairs. We'd go upstairs. Obviously, you hear someone whistling downstairs at that point. Right.
It's always how.
And I remember Kyle was upstairs by himself, and I was downstairs with Sarah and Rob, and Kyle came back down. Well, it sounded like he fell down the stairs because he came back down, and you hear him walking, and then he just I don't know if he tripped or whatever, but it was funny because when Rob signed his picture form, he put "See you in the hospital" because he thought he fell down the stairs. But when Kyle was up there, he said he heard someone whistling the American Horror Stories theme.
Okay. Well, that is strange because that's the story that I haven't heard. That would be very odd. Well, hold on, because if you think about it, if you really think about it, so American Horror Stories is newer. It's only been around for 10 years, maybe 12. There is someone who is said to haunt that area that may actually know that show.
That's possible. I can't, because one of the stories of the Gilchrist was they have a spirit there named Blackie. What was his name? Willie Black?
Was that it? Willie?
Or was his last name James? Willie James? I apologize for not remembering, but and that was relatively recent when he passed. He didn't pass at the jail, but he was shot and his body was dumped through a window at the jail, and he was left to bleed out. And I guess he was found and taken to the hospital where he had passed. But that was recent enough that it could have possibly been where he would have saw the American Horror Story or something, and just might be having fun with investigators.
Right. I mean, just a possibility. It also, I've watched a lot of that show, and right now, for some reason, I can't even remember the theme song.
I can't either. And I can't whistle, so I can't do it for you.
Yeah. I'm trying to
Even if I
remember.
remember.
But I mean, a fantastic um, place, and a place that you got to meet Rob Demarest from Ghost
Hmm.
Hunters International.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
um, so that's a great memory too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the Gilchrist is good. I like the Gilchrist.
and I think we met,
Mhm.
meeting Michelle, and we had good contacts come from that place, and that's eventually how we learned about the Hamilton County Jail was through her. I
Mhm.
think she was
Yeah.
talking about it. So um, I do remember a non-Kappa investigation. Now
Okay.
that they say this supposedly is the most haunted house in Florida. I do not. I'm not going to say I do not believe that, but it's really hard to say what is the most haunted and what's not. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just apples and oranges. Every place is different every day. But it's a cool house. Of course, it's the May Sterger house in Brooksville, Florida, which is a beautiful, beautiful home. Um, but I remember being in one of the bedrooms of that house, doing an EVP session, and everyone, from my knowledge, was above me in the attic where there's a spirit named Mr. Nasty. I don't know why they call him Mr. Nasty. I think he's the story behind him. He just wasn't very nice.
Mm.
So, and it sounded like there was somebody on the bottom floor, and they had a broomstick, and they were just going bang, bang, and like probably 10 times roughly on the bottom of that floor, and it was rhythmic and in perfect time, like a um like a melanoma, not melanoma. What the heck's that word? Metronome. Oh my gosh. See, this is my goodness. But it was
You're
very
a
much.
mess.
I am, and that's okay because you know what? I myself am paranormal, uh, and I am. Um, yeah, I myself am very paranormal, and I take pride in that. So, I mean, I found that interesting. Now, I don't know if that was paranormal. I, that wasn't a very well coordinated effort of investigation that we had. It was a great time. I'm glad I was able to visit the place. Um, but hard to say, but it was still interesting. Um, a place that you haven't brought up a place that I would love to hear some stories about, and I know
Mhm.
you have some Indian Lake.
Ah, yes. So Indian Lake is a recreational man-made lake in Tarboro, North Carolina. Um, it actually dates back. I'm not sure when the lake dates back to, but the stories that I have and its time to Kappa dates back pre-Kappa as well. I know on the last episode, I spoke about the jail and jailer's house in Edenton, which was Kappa's first actual investigation. We actually investigated Indian Lake before that, but then Kappa had no name. Um, Jonathan, Kappa's co-founder, and myself, we were actually fishing at the lake, and Jonathan was we were just talking, and Jonathan brought up that, hey, there's ghost stories tied to this place. And I'm like, oh, really? And before this, we had already talked about, buying equipment and, investigating and starting a team or whatever. So we had the equipment at home, and I was like, really? What's the stories? And I don't have documented proof that the stories that he told me actually happened, but it did get us to go out there and investigate. So what his story was, this may just been an urban legend local to Tarboro, like, hey, this happened so many years ago. Apparently back in like the 80s or sometime back then, there was, because Cub Scouts use it to go camping. There's a campground and then a lake, 20 feet, 30, 50 feet from the campsite. So Cub Scouts will go back there, and camp or whatnot, as Cub Scouts do. And apparently back in the 80s, early 90s or whatnot, someone from the jail, which is not too far from there, the prison, an inmate had escaped or something to that effect and was hiding in Indian Lake in the woods, because it's the lake campsite. And ooh, you've never been to Indian Lake, right?
Have not.
Okay, so I would say about 100 feet from the campsite, there was woods and there's trails that you can walk through, and they all kind of just lead around through the woods and then the outer perimeter of the woods and then come back to the campsite. And there's also a gazebo a little ways away from the campsite. And apparently the gazebo was erected in memory of those the Cub Scouts. Don't know if that's legit or not either. So take the stories from it, like what I was told, with a grain of salt. So he told me that, and I'm like, maybe we could go back to the house and grab some equipment after we're done fishing. One thing led to another, and we did just that. Came out there after dark. I had the equipment in the trunk. This is back in the days when we just had all the stuff thrown in the back of the Impala. And so we went out there, just Jonathan and myself, going through the campsite area, asking questions, being very amateur. We had a digital voice recorder, two between us, and one video camera. That's all the equipment we had. So we're going through the campsite, asking questions, trying to talk to the campers or the Cub Scouts or whatnot. And nothing really happened the first time we went. Obviously, it's dark. You're really close to woods. It's freaky. It obviously got darker than dark, and it was spooky. We weren't used to it at all. So we stayed out there till about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, packed our things up, went home, straight to the computer, started unloading all the audio that we had recorded. And we got several EVPs, or something on audio that we just couldn't explain. It honestly just sounded like scratches, like that. And we listened to it over and over again, like, what is this? Couldn't find any logic in it at all. It just sounded like scratches. So one of us had the crazy idea to slow it down. So we slowed it down, and you could actually make out someone repeatedly just saying, "Rescue Richard, rescue Richard, rescue Richard." So we thought that was pretty creepy. So the next night, this turned into every night over the course of a couple of weeks. Went out there, and then we got a couple other friends to come out there with us. We got some walkies. I think I just had walkies laying around from road trips or whatever. We would split off into groups. Someone would go walk the trails while someone was by the campsite. And Jonathan was close to the lake, and Sterling and I were by the woods. And just randomly out of nowhere, we hear through the walkie, like, it sounded like a creepy little kid say, "Mama." Sterling and I stopped in our tracks, looked at each other. I picked up the walkie. I'm like, "Hello?" Nothing. "Hey, Jonathan, was that you?" Jonathan's like, "Was what, me?" And did you just say "Mama"? really creepy through the walkie. No, why would I do that? That was weird. But hey, since you're here or since you're talking, meet back up with us. We want to share something with you. So we all met back up. Jonathan was actually feeling like taps on his arm, like close to his elbow, and no one was there. It was just him and one other person. They were on the opposite side of him. He said it felt like really, really cold fingertips. I had actually felt something pull my shirt, pull my hair, my ponytail, uh, and then we went back home, audio, and we got the same thing again, but we heard it was more audible and more clear. Rescue Richard. Then we got EVPs. Don't let them get us. We had something say something like we're scared or something like that. And you and I feel the same way about mediums. Okay. So there was a lady that we had spoke to. She had no idea that we've been checking out Indian Lake or anything like that. We had spoke to her and we were like, cause she had, in passing said something about she was a medium, or psychic or something to that effect. And we were like, oh, well, we had a funny feeling about Indian Lake. We go out there fishing quite a bit. You know where we're talking about? And she was like, yeah, I go by there when I come to work. I'm like, all right, cool. Do you think maybe on either your way home or coming into work or something, you could stop by and just kind of get a sense of what you feel or anything like that? If you have any, anything telling you anything about Indian Lake. So she's like, oh yeah, I can do that. A few days later, I run into her again and she's like, hey, I stopped by Indian Lake. And I'm like, all right, cool. What did you find out? Did you feel anything or get anything from when you were there? She was like, I couldn't go any further than the parking lot because there's a parking lot, then the lake, then the campsite. So I couldn't go any further than the parking lot and the gate that opens up into the park. And we're like, really? Why? She's like, I just got overwhelmed with sadness. I I saw someone sitting in the gazebo, and it was a lady crying, and she had paper and a pencil, and she was just like scribbling on paper. And I just had flashes where the lake wasn't there. It was just, but I guess before the lake was made. And then there was a house. I saw a house and little kids were running up to me saying, save him. And I saw an image of the entire family being hung. And we're like, oh, okay. And she's like, after that, I had to leave because it was just too much. So then, we started doing research. We looked into the area before Indian Lake was actually dug and made. And there was a house. Sorry, I'm getting choked up here. There was a house sitting right where the lake was. And they were all actually murdered. Someone this was like back in the 1800s or early 1900s, something like that. They were actually brought out and the entire family was hung. And the first one that was hung was a child named Richard Lane. And then it was just like, oh, we got the EVP saying rescue Richard. And it was crazy how the EVP came through. It sounded like someone drawing, like it was just scratches. But we're like, why did that come through as scratches? But then it dawned on us, that was maybe the lady writing Rescue Richard or something. And then audibly, it came through as both the scribbles on the paper as well as a voice saying Rescue Richard. So that was a pretty freaky time at Indian Lake. We probably investigated Indian Lake no less than 15 times. And every time we investigated, we got EVPs, and they all correlated back to that family.
I think that's one of my favorites. Just because you got the um, some folklore, you got a medium that is correlating to some history that you dug up, and then that history is circling back to a piece of evidence.
Right.
And it all kind of comes together very well. And I know I've never been to Indian Lake, but I've heard about it for the last as long as I've known you. It's one of the first places you talked about. So
yeah, because I mean, Indian Lake, we didn't even have a name then. Like I said, that was before the Edenton jail. We were just kids with the recorder,
right.
back then. I was probably 21, I just turned 21, and Jonathan was what, 23, 24. He's not that much older than me, so about 23 and 22 maybe. And that was when we were like, hey, we need to do this,
Right.
and at the time, I was actually still with the other team that I won't mention.
Right. Right. I mean, it,
What is the scariest place that you've actually been in? A place that to this day it gives you chills when you just think about it.
hmm, that's a great question. Huh.
I can tell you from mine, or mine is the Chihuahua County Jail.
Well, for obvious reasons.
Hmm.
I mean, there's some crazy things that you'd experience there. Um,
But what's the
in
first location you can think of?
I think the first one that comes to mind, and only because um, I was alone for an extended period of time setting up cameras, and I felt so uneasy. I'm going to go with Battleship North Carolina. Um,
Okay.
so the only part of that investigation where I felt unnerved was when I went down by myself to set up the DVR system in the sick bay.
I was waiting for you to say sick bay. That's where I felt the creepiest as well.
And I felt so many things. Then I was so freaked out because I remember you looking at me and saying, "Okay, well, we gotta go run this down there," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I didn't like it down. And now we didn't get any evidence out of sick bay. Nothing really happened, but you just got a feeling, right? So,
Yeah.
and I felt it when we were just touring the ship, and then we go. Now I'm down there just stringing cameras by myself, and there's little twists and turns and little rooms off to the
It's
side.
very dark.
It is. It's one of the darker areas, and
Yeah.
it's just got a feeling. Um, and I didn't not like it, but when I think about how I wasn't scared, but I was very, very unnerved setting
Yeah.
up
It's like,
the
let me go ahead and get this done and get back upstairs.
yeah. Um,
Mm.
it was very unnerving, and to think what the original plan was. Um, I
Yep. And I think we're gonna have to do that
I mean, I'm down
in
for it.
February.
It's coming. Um,
Yeah. So let's put it on air so you cannot back out.
that I'm gonna.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
ladies and gentlemen, when we investigate next February, we're going back to the USS North Carolina. We're going to put Corey, now that we know the most active areas, where we had the most active or activity at. I'm thinking the engine room. And if you've ever heard of the Estes method or sensory deprivation, it's when you have a spirit box, a blindfold, and one of the investigators blindfolds themselves or gets blindfolded, has headphones, and they're listening to the spirit box, which is basically a AM FM radio sweeping through multiple frequencies at an accelerated rate. And what you're listening for is words or phrases, anything that comes through and covers multiple sweeps. The theory is if it's covering multiple sweeps and correlates to questions being asked, that the investigator that's hearing it, mind you, has headphones on and they're blindfolded. So they are completely cut off of all senses, really, except for their hearing and their sense of surrounding, because they're blindfolded. They can't see they can't hear what's being asked, and they can't read lips. So they have no idea what questions are being asked. So say Corey is blindfolded and has the headphones on and he's listening to the spirit box and he's just spitting out the words that he hears as long as they're covering multiple sweeps, because it is an AM FM radio. It can pick up radio frequencies. So if, say, the other investigator is asking questions, your basic who all is in here, and you get a response that says blue, that doesn't really make sense to the question. So what we're going to do is add a fear factor to this. We're going to blindfold Corey, put Corey in the engine room with the headphones on, by himself, leave a walkie-talkie, whereas the rest of the team is going back to base to watch the monitors because he's going to be on camera. And we can see and hear everything that he's saying and ask questions through the walkie. So he's completely cut off from everyone. He won't know exactly what's happening, what's being said, and obviously we'll see him. So he's not in any danger. Where the engine room isn't too far from base, so we'll be able to get to him in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, in just a minute or two. So he won't be in any danger or anything like that, but he will be by himself and blindfolded. And we'll see if we can get any responses to that. So be trying to tune in. Be tuning in. We will record it. I was gonna say tune into that live, but I'm not sure if we're gonna go live on Facebook, but we will be filming it and posting it later. We didn't have the best signal because the Wi-Fi there is spotty. It is basically inside of a tin can.
Yeah.
So
Difficult.
the signal isn't great, but we will be filming and posting that to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Kappa Paranormal.
That'll be a great time, I'm sure. Kevin has been trying to get me to be alone somewhere for I got out of it at the Chowan County Jail. I will say that I did go by myself.
You did
at
Jasper.
Yeah, just recently, the last time we were there. But I mean, I could have taken a nap. I mean, it was pretty calm.
And for the record, I won't put Corey alone when he's in any danger. I won't put anyone alone when they're in danger. We do have a rule. We have a buddy system, so everyone on the team is 100% safe 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this is a disclaimer.
Yeah, I mean, this is more for just experimental / having a little fun, raising the stakes.
And obviously, if Corey doesn't feel right, he still has to do it.
I'll do it. I'll do it. But yeah, okay. And we
So
also will
let's
be
squeeze in.
filming. Oh, well, hi.
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, well, we also will be filming a podcast while we're on the boat
Yes,
too.
on
So,
on the USS North Carolina, we
so,
will be filming an
uh,
Into the Paranormal.
but that will be a ways out. That
Yeah.
will come out sometime in February. Um, but yeah, stay tuned for all that. That'll be fun. And now
So
I
let's
have to
squeeze
do it.
in. Yeah. Let's squeeze in one more story from you. I told the last one.
Okay. Let's see. Let's find it. Rack my brain for a good one. Mm. So, this is a cemetery. This is me,
Yeah.
15 years old, young me, pre-Kappa, pre-anything, really. And
Pre-adolescent Corey.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Just going to cemeteries in our neighborhood in this area. And we'd gone to a cemetery. Um, I was with some friends and started feeling very odd. Not sure how to describe it. I guess the classic I feel watched sensation.
Mhm.
And we're all standing around this certain area of graves near the back of the cemetery. And we start to smell sulfur. And it was very strong, a very strong smell of sulfur. Um,
That's never good.
no, no. And this is one of the few times that I've smelt sulfur and I couldn't debunk it in any way. I don't know where it was coming from because it was in a very confined space outdoors, which made no sense. Um,
Mhm.
and I remember we saw a shadow on the other side of the cemetery. And I started making a lot of times. Now, this is 15-year-old me. So I was saying silly things to try to get um, the spirit to react to it, I guess. And we were talking about R. Kelly. I don't know why, but we were. Um, Saying something about R. Kelly being in the closet, or I don't know. I don't know why we were making that statement. Um, but that happened, and we saw more shadows, and the sulfur happened, and we left.
Okay.
Um, well, a couple strange things were caught while we were making fun of R. Kelly. A very, very almost, I would just say flat out pissed off no was caught on EVP. It's like, well, why is it so mad? Does it deep? I mean, I didn't think they don't even know who R. Kelly is, most likely. So it didn't make sense. And um, I think that was one of the big ones was the no, and there were some other voices that we couldn't make out when we were talking about this. And so we go back, and when we went back and actually looked at the grave, it made perfect sense. Um, the guy's name on the grave was W. Kelly.
Oh.
It's like, oh, and I don't know. We did not realize that, or because the way he's engraving it, you couldn't see it in the dark. Um, and then something else caught my attention. He passed away on July 5th of 1993. Now, I was born July 6th, 1993. His picture is also on the tombstone. Um, and looking at that picture and seeing the date of death, and I had just the strangest feeling. It was odd. Um, almost like a reckoning. I don't really know how to describe it. But just knowing, okay, this person died the day before I was born, and we may have communicated with, I don't know. It just struck me,
Yeah.
15-year-old me, very much so, very hard. But I'll always remember that pretty fondly. Um, that is also the story of people used to make fun of me because every time they'd put the K2 near my butt, it would start to spike. So that was also the cemetery where the story of Corey's butt demons came into play. So that's another thing that happened there too. That's what happened. See, this goes back to the whole ghost hunting versus paranormal investigator. I was a ghost hunter. I was a whole throw thing. We didn't know what was going on. It's
Yeah.
much different now, but that's what happens when you're 15 and roaming
Yeah.
around
Everybody starts
cemeteries.
somewhere.
Yeah, but um, yeah, that's an
I got
experience.
one more from Indian Lake.
Okay,
So one more. Another with Jonathan being attacked. Jonathan, that was the first time Jonathan was attacked at Indian Lake. So we were going down the trails. As I said, there were trails that lead through the woods that are in Indian Lake. It was only three of us there that night. It was middle of the night. There was no one else in that park. All right. So we were dumb, like I said. To this day, I don't think that I would go back at nighttime Indian Lake with just two other people. Um, I probably would. But so the three of us were walking the trails and you have completely disappeared. Right, there
I
you
know. Back.
go. So we were walking the trails. It was just Jonathan, myself, and Sterling. And this is again pre-Kappa days. Um, we were just walking down talking, and the entire time we were heading back to the camp area because I remember in this trail you would kind of leave the camp area, go down the trail, and then it would fork. And where it forked, there was this huge tree. And hold on, there was this huge tree at the end of the fork, and that's where we would turn around and come back to go toward the campsite. So we made it down there, turned around and came back, and there Jonathan out of nowhere just lands on me. I didn't know that he was in the air or anything was happening, but I remember him landing on me and I bumped into Sterling. And the way it happened, it scared myself, Jonathan as well, I guess, because, something landed on him or picked him up or whatever. And it scared Sterling because I landed on Sterling. And I just remember looking at Sterling. It freaked Sterling out so much that he had actually pulled his pocket knife out. And I was like, whoa, that's me. Don't know what happened. I turned around to Jonathan. Hey, what's happening? We got to go. And we just started walking swiftly back to the campsite. He, we get there and I'm like, what happened? He said, something lifted me up by my hair and dropped me. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, what do you mean something picked you up by your hair and dropped you? Just that. But we need to go back to the car or something. We need to get away from this area. We went back to the house after that. We're listening to audio. And just before that happened, we didn't hear anything leading up to it. The only thing that I remember is Johnson landed on me. But you could hear my cat crying in the background. But so you could hear something hitting the ground, like doop, 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 and you could hear it getting closer to us. And then a loud thump, and then us reacting to that thump. The thump would have been Jonathan falling on us. So you could hear something. It sounds like something running up the path to us, and then I guess lifting Jonathan up and dropping him on us. So that was pretty scary.
I mean, it's quite the
Like I said,
experience.
like I said, that was the first time that Jonathan got attacked. And my
So,
cat is still
yeah, I was about to say, I
crying.
think I'm hearing a kitty cat.
Yeah. All
I'm
right.
gone.
So yeah. All right. Let's wrap it there, guys.
That was some good stories. Indian Lake is
Yeah.
a cool place. I'm glad some stories were shared from that place that hopefully I will visit at some point. I'm hoping to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to not necessarily to investigate, but just because um,
To get a
it's
face to the name, so to speak.
right, exactly. Same. Well, the Chowan County Jail was different. There's a lot of
Yeah.
reasons I wanted to go there,
Yeah.
but
Tracy and Julie actually investigated the Indian Lake with us. On its 10-year anniversary. Yeah,
oh,
10
that's
years
right.
from the
All right.
first time we investigated it. We actually got the camping permits and set up everything out there, and then spent the night investigating, really. And that was an experience. It wasn't quite like before, but it was, I guess, being older and more like aware of things that happen in the woods. You know,
Yeah.
we did hear a large thump, and we were all pretty much thinking, what was that? Because there's bear in North Carolina and probably in those woods. So,
That would be
yeah.
my first thought would be
Yeah.
bear, some kind of mountain, some kind of big kitty.
Yeah.
Um, but
But yeah, I I would love to go back and just check it out. So, Corey, where can people send those ghost stories that we want to read on the podcast? Listen, like for all of our viewers and listeners to hear live on air every Saturday at 10 a.m., where can they send those stories to? How can they reach the podcast?
so you really have a few ways you can reach out to us. The easiest way would be sending us a little email at IntoTheParanormalPod. That is IntoTheParanormalPod at gmail.com. Send us your story. Um, who knows if we like the story enough, maybe we'll have you on to talk about it if you want to join us. Never know. Who knows? We like to do. I'm still disappearing. It's okay. We're just gonna hang. We're just gonna go with that. We're having some difficulties here, but we roll with the punches here into the paranormal. But we will. But you can do it at Into the Paranormal Pod at Gmail. Also, Facebook.com/Into the Paranormal. You can also reach out to us through our messages there. If you had, any story you'd like to tell us, you do that as well. Kevin, if they have a paranormal problem, how can they reach out to good old Kappa?
If you feel your home, business, or anything in between is haunted, or you're experiencing things you can't quite explain, then feel free to reach out to Kappa Paranormal at www.kappaparanormal.com or facebook.com/Kappa Paranormal, or tweet at us at Kappa Paranormal. Or you can send us an email at info@kappaparanormal.com, or visit our website, which I had already mentioned, www.kappaparanormal.com, and click the request help button. We are always one click away.
And you know what? Don't forget, we also have a Discord family, and it's growing a little bit.
Yes. Look us up on Discord. Just go to our Facebook page, and it is one of the links on our Discord page, and I believe it's on our website. You can always join the Kappa family. Visit our Facebook group at Kappa Worldwide or www.facebook.com/Kappa Worldwide. join the Kappa family, get in on the conversation, talk to us, talk to other paranormal enthusiasts or anyone that has a general interest in the unknown. We're all right there, ready to talk to you and get the conversation started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we hope you will join us. And also remember to follow Into the Paranormal Podcast too on Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, smash those buttons, ups and downs, and all that fun stuff.
Don't smash the down one, or do. It still helps
don't
in the
smash the
algorithm.
down. Well, if you're gonna smash the down button, tell us how we can do better.
Yeah.
Be constructive in
Hit
your
us up in the
criticism.
comments down below if you're here on YouTube. Let us know what you want to hear us ramble on about. And we're here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Let us know what you want us to talk about. As we said before, you have a story, send it in, send in your suggestions. We're always here to listen to you, and we take feedback very well.
Most of the time.
Except Corey, you have to calm him down.
Oh, I get mad.
Violently angry.
I get mad. I look at addresses. It's not a good thing. It's unhealthy. But we make it work.
He starts to disappear when he gets mad. He's been doing it this entire episode.
Yeah, that's why I'm having some. Well, I'm like the Hulk, but I just kind of go ghost.
Yeah.
Literally.
Don't make Corey go ghost.
Don't make me go ghost.
Like, share, subscribe, all that fun, cringy stuff that YouTubers say.
Yeah, all that. That's why I say smash the like button, hit that whatever thing to the notification bell.
Thing. So let's end it here, man. We will see you guys next Saturday at 10 a.m.
Absolutely.
And as always, I was waiting for you to say stay spooky.
Oh, yes. Stay spooky. Bye, guys.